I don't even need to use Twitch as an example because you actually have the same viewpoint on the exact thing that we're talking about that I do. Because you disagree with the microtransactions. I do too. I think they're bad. And we're both talking about it. We both love the game, but we both hate this part of the game, which I think is totally fair to say and totally fair to think.
No, yeah, and like I said, the whole point of the distinction was more the people turning it tribal. It's like you can't. It feels weird to see people say you're playing the game. You know, if you're playing the game, you're perpetuating the micros. You are the problem with the gaming industry because you're playing this game. But then those people would also engage with other products that have micros. And it's like, yeah, there's different levels of micros, but like I said, any micro that's purchased is just further going to show devs, well, if people are willing to pay for piecemeal content here, how far can we take it? And so the whole point behind the dichotomy was to basically drive home, if you're going to, you shouldn't complain that one person is engaging with micros in a different way that you're engaging with micros. If we're all engaging with micros and we all hate micros, we're all in the same anti-micro team here. It shouldn't turn into something tribalist because someone engages with micros on a different level than you. And at least when I first saw your response, my perception of it was that you were in the camp of like, don't engage with micros. Micros are bad. Yet you had previously engaged with micros from World of Warcraft. Because all I know about you is that you're a Warcraft guy.
Oh yeah, I bought things on the store with Warcraft. Very few and far between. I was protesting, by the way, the Warcraft store.
I've been raging and ranting about microtransactions for 12 years. And in all those 12 years, the one thing that I've learned being 40 years old is that the biggest joke in gaming is the gamer. We spend more time taking all of our anger and our vitriol and putting it towards each other, even if we're attempting to do it in a more docile way, such as Asmongold in the Fightin Cowboy. It's the same song and dance that's been going on for 12 years. It's the same song and dance that's been going on every year, because every year there is one of the big publishers and or developers that releases a game that has microtransactions, whether they're egregiously overpriced or whatever kind of bullshit it may be. Gamers all do and say the same thing. We spend more time arguing amongst each other rather than looking at this from a perspective and saying, how is this going to harm gaming in the long run? Let me give you some examples. Y'all remember Electronic Arts when they decided to release the Sim City? Point being is that gamers united, even if you didn't play the Sim City, to get that shit removed. And that's because I think gamers looked at it and they saw that as a detriment to gaming. That if we accept this, if we allow this, that this is going to show other developers and publishers that this is okay, that we accept it. You look at Microsoft when they decided to release their no-use game console, DRM console. Again, it didn't matter what you played on, what type of games you played. Gamers united and they were like, what the fuck, Microsoft? And then it was reversed. So yeah, why is it that gamers can't unite when it comes to microtransactions as a whole 12 years ago? Because we were just as divided then as we are today. And we sit here and we perpetuate the same bullshit excuse. And at the end of the day, what these two gentlemen, Asmongold and the Fightin Cowboy, it's objectively an excuse. Factually an excuse. I mean, I sit here and I look at it from this perspective. Why is it there are people that would look at Asmongold and the Fightin Cowboy and say they're a fucking piece of shit, they're part of the problem, they're no better than the people that purchase the microtransactions? Because objectively they're correct. That's the reality of it. Because that individual knows that on a base fundamental, them not purchasing the game isn't going to change anything if there are people like this or like this. And that is why nothing ever gets done in gaming. Because we as gamers make more excuses for the publishers and developers. Well, the game is good. The game is awesome. I love playing the game. It's great. And that's why nothing gets done. And yet, a lot of gamers fail to realize the detriment that this is going to have in the long term, in the long run. 12 years ago, cosmetics were anywhere from 99 cents to $1.99. And then slowly but surely, what did they start doing? They started increasing. $3.99, $4.99, $5.99, $10, $15, $65. And gamers do what they do best. They bitch and complain, but did anything change? No. Because there were gamers that perpetuated this same excuse these two gentlemen are perpetuating. And at the end of the day, it's an excuse. And it's a bad excuse. But I think the other side also has to sit there and be like, maybe even people like these two, who have a massive following, and smaller YouTubers like myself or other people could look and be like, they have the potential to definitely rile people up and, get people not to buy the game. So why don't they do that? And this goes not just for Dragon's Dogma 2, but any kind of controversy. And it's because I think that over the years, because there was a time even Asmongold ranted and raged, I'm assuming, I've never seen any of the videos, and he's claimed it in his own videos, about microtransaction and the detriment that they have. But there comes a point where where you start to realize that you're talking to a rock at the end of the day. Nobody's listening. And if nobody's going to listen, then there's no point in me as an individual choosing not to purchase the game and not to have fun in gaming, because this is a united effort. It requires all of us. But I also think that the problem with that effort, or the lack thereof, is the very statement that I just mentioned. And that's one problem within gaming, is that objectively we know what should have happened when we found out Dragon's Dogma 2 had microtransactions. People should have stopped streaming it and they should have done a refund. That would have sent the message. What these two gentlemen are perpetuating isn't going to send the message. It never has for 12 fucking years. But like I just said, you look at somebody like Osmond, who used to rant and rage about it. Why should he? And that's probably his mentality. When you're not doing it, when another YouTuber isn't doing it, when another bigger or smaller YouTuber isn't doing it, you know? I find it kind of ironic that the biggest negative aspect in gaming is microtransaction. And we've never been able to unite in trying to at least abolish the really bad stuff. I don't think we're at a point where we could abolish it all. I think objectively, we could abolish pay to win and pay to make it easy, both for single and online portion games, because the bullshit they talk about in this video is exactly that bullshit. It's irrelevant that it doesn't affect other players, objectively, because it is going to affect other players in the long run for the future games that come out. That is the effect it's going to have. That is the effect that clearly these two are blinded by, or maybe they're aware of, but they're just ignoring for whatever reason. At the end of the day, I think this is the biggest problem with microtransactions. It's no longer really a problem about the microtransactions or even the type of microtransactions. The problem is all the excuses that we as gamers make to accept those microtransactions instead of uniting together to abolish it. This is also further for, I think it also depends on the publisher or the company that is doing it. You look at Electronic Arts back in the SimCity DRM controversy. Gamer, they got a lot of vitriol for that. But there was another company that decided to put DRM for a single player game. Well, technically it was you could also play the game online. But for the single player campaign, they had DRM. You had to be online in order to unlock in-game stuff that you could win or get by playing the single player campaign, and that was Mortal Kombat 11. People threw a lot of vitriol and hate toward Electronic Arts, but when it came to Warner Brothers, they were like, bad Ed Boon. Don't do that again. Bad Ed Boon. Don't do it again. And there is another problem right there of the hypocrisy of gamers. They will take one company that they have found to be more evil, I guess you could say, and when another company does the same thing, gamers give this company a pass, which is a problem, another problem within the gaming industry. You can't sit here and say that you don't like DRM, vitriolize one company, but allow another company to get a pass on it. And this is the problem with microtransactions and a lot of controversies in gaming that we see. Anyway, I've re-recorded this video like 5 billion fucking times today, okay? And I think this is the one. And that's pretty much sums this up. If we want microtransactions to go bye-bye, and let's just say only cosmetics are around, I am willing to meet publishers and developers halfway if we don't have to put up with pay to win, pay to make it easier loot box. I objectively feel that as gamers, we should unite on all three of those, regardless if it is an online or single player game. We need to unite on those three aspects. Even if this means that we don't purchase the next Dragon's Dogma game. But at the end of the day, you know and I know I'm speaking to the fucking choir. I mean, I'm not asking a lot. I don't think most gamers are asking a lot. Isn't it time that we stop bitching amongst ourselves and take that energy and put it towards the publisher? Because we've had wins. But as of right now, when it comes to microtransactions, loot boxes, pay to win, pay to make it easy, we sure as hell have a lot of participation trophy. And at the end of the day, what these two gentlemen say, though it is sound and logical to some degree, it's also an objective bullshit excuse that isn't going to help the situation. Because the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, or 1 million people that choose not to buy the microtransactions or not to purchase the game isn't going to send the message. It's objectively only going to work when we all do it. Microtransactions have been affecting gaming for 12 fucking years. If we can unite for other controversies, why can't we unite for this one? And like I said, I'm willing to compromise with publishers. I think all microtransactions are evil. But if I want gamers to at least unite on something, should we not at least come together on pay to win, pay to make it easy, irregardless if it's single player, and loot boxes, and abolish them. Isn't it time we stop having participation trophies for those? Isn't it time we stop talking to talk? Isn't it time they stop talking to talk? And maybe it's time for us to start walking the walk.